Does it really matter to get to a gene first? Does it really matter to get into your collection first? Maybe you're one of the first people to import it. Where does that what does it boil down to when you're working with different genes in your collection and you get something new? How do you break it down on whether it's affordable at whatever price point it may be, or when is it your time to purchase it? Let's dig into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Will here, Flawless Exotic Creations, coming to you guys with yet again another video. And we've been asked this question a gazillion times. Does it really matter when you get to a gene? Like as far as getting there first, or within the first 100 breeders that started working with a gene, implementing it into their projects. We've had different viewpoints on this topic now, I could say, over the years, and I think it depends. Ultimately, the hard answer, the just no excuses, no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. I also feel that we need to keep the hobby fun. So when you see some of these combinations or some of these new genes and genetic combos that's being created, it ignites a lot of interest into certain genes, depending on how cool, that cool factor when you hit these combos, but as well as, you know, the creativity side on the breeder that has the gene, the breeder that doesn't have the gene. Maybe they're working something and they can now imagine what they're working in their game plan on what they could put that gene to work in their collection to do. I think what comes along with these different genes, I feel like a lot of breeders feel that having a gene first pretty much guarantees them success. It guarantees you some type of income source, you know, maybe with these increased rates or whatever it may be. But when you inject that into the combinations and start mass producing these genes, they're just waiting for the demand to get up because they're trying to work on their supply. I feel like we should be working on kind of building demand at the same time while maybe working your supply, if your means are all in place to do so. Here, we're not really looking to produce, like mass produce anything at all. We're just really trying to strategically breed for what we want. And by even us doing, you know, 3, 4, 5 pairings in the same project, I feel that a lot of the things that we miss in these projects are still so far off the beaten path that you don't release a lot of the same stuff into the market over and over and over. Now, that being said, your game plan may be for something completely different, and that's completely fine. We can disagree, we can agree, we can be after different things, and all of it is okay. This is not a hobby where it's one size fits all, meaning you have a place here even if you disagree with me. So again, let's break it down. Why is this even a topic? Well, you know, you get those new genes, you're going to have the higher prices, you're going to have more attention on your brand and what you're creating, you're going to have more talk about you because you're working with said gene, you're going to have more followers, kinda. And the reason I say kinda is because you're already a huge part of the community, and that does not consider your follower count. But if you're everywhere on all podcasts, you're all across social media, you're kind of going to be in the know of what's happening. So you're really probably not going to garner more followers just because you have a new gene, because you're already kind of plateaued at that market and you can kind of throw it out there so other people that's also in the industry and the market can see what you're working with at that time. You're already a part of the community. But one thing that we didn't touch on is a lot of people feel like you can get a new gene, make a great name for yourself, and that it somehow gives you credibility in the hobby and on your journey. Personally, again, we can only speak from our perspective. I don't think it will give us any credibility for us to have, you know, the flawless gene or whatever gene it may be that we discover and we decide to start pushing. I feel more comes from what you do with the gene. How can you differentiate your gene from anything that's similar to that gene, whatever complex it may be in, whether it's a codom or a recessive gene, and how can you do that gene some justice in 300 plus gene pool that's out there. It's not what makes that gene better than another gene. It's more so how can you make that gene stand out? What can that gene, if it's an enhancing gene or pattern changing gene, what can that gene bring to the market, bring to the hobby to make other people want it in their collections? That's the goal. That's our goal. Whether it's to put certain combos out there and get people excited for something that has kind of fallen to the wayside, or whether that's working with a completely new gene. Over the years, why have things went this kind of direction anyway with the finances? Well, it's kind of tried and true with a lot of the bigger brands or the bigger names. Typically, if you run with a gene, a newer gene, they've already done their due diligence and they start putting it into their collection. It tends to yield a higher financial return. When they start selling it, it tends to bring in more of a higher value around that project because you have more of the big wigs out there putting their hands on it. I think all of these are kind of positive in a sense because I'm going to tell you, a lot of these big breeders, they're going to have far more, bigger, more diverse collection than we're going to have. So we're going to get to see different genes do different things and maybe combinations and genes that we don't have here, or that our collection is not subjected to even have even in the future. So it can please more eyes because they can put more combos and different things to it. Also, having a bigger collection, being more successful overall over the long term, you know, whether they've been breeding for 15 or 20 years and they're a full-time breeder, you have more resources available, whether that's purchasing power, investment dollars, research dollars. There's so many different things and approaches you can do from the business side to make any gene you feel is worthwhile, worth getting. You can be that person to go out there and throw, you know, 10, 20, $30,000 at a gene. And I'm not advocating for you guys to do that. Not advocating for you to do that at all. I'm just saying I understand from our own perspective on why that's kind of enticing for some of those bigger brands that have more reserve in their business tanks to go out there and do. I think we tend to, as spectators ourselves as well, you know, the community as a whole, they say, oh, you see a gene and it's, you know, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. And we sit back and our first response oftentimes is nobody's going to buy that. That's way too high. And, you know, a lot of times I get it 1000%, but it's the same thing across the market, across business. You know, I'm sure a lot of people hate Lamborghinis. That's my favorite car, Lamborghini. You know, and a lot of people sit back and say, who's going to pay 6 figures for a car? Just go out there and get, you know, a Hyundai or a Ford, whatever your favorite car may be. A lot of people cannot justify for other people spending their means to get something that they want. And I think that's just human nature. I think we don't put ourselves in other people's shoes to understand things you like, other people are not going to like, ourselves included. I always talk to Audra about the same thing because she's extremely annoying with some of the things that she likes. And what are you snapping your neck at? Sorry, I was rudely interrupted, but she's extremely annoying with some of the things that she like. And I'm sure she will say that I'm extremely annoying with some of the focus points and probably not some of the things I like because you kind of like everything I like, right, baby?
Yeah.
That brings us to have a plan. If you're going to make an investment, make sure you have a business plan in place for you to execute that plan, because that investment, whether you're pulling from your pocket, whether you have investors behind you, you want to make sure that you have not just an exit strategy, but a plan in place to hopefully see everything completely through. So a lot of these newer genes, you know, they're going to be on one end of the spectrum or the other. Either they're going to be widely talked about on every brand, on every channel, on every podcast, or you know, they're not going to be talked about at all, kind of worked in secrecy, and you know, waiting for to hit that kind of breakthrough combination and then thrown out there on the market by, you know, a very, very small breeder, and it grows from there. So again, there's so many different approaches that, you know, a new gene can be taken by a keeper or a breeder, but have a plan in place. Make sure that you're not spending, you know, half of your life savings knowing, you know, that's that, and you have nothing behind you, no planning behind you, and maybe things don't work out and you're out of all your funds that you got into that gene, and now it's kind of got a really, really bad taste in your mouth. We've seen it happen with people in the hobby. Again, we watched some of the videos on looking at some of the things that breeders that left the hobby or left the business. What were some of the things that you can take, some of the cues you could take from them to ensure that maybe you don't go down the same path. All of these things kind of go hand in hand. So on that time frame of getting that gene, as soon as it drops out or as soon as it's discovered, does it make more sense for you to wait a year, 2 years, 3 years? I mean, we've been breeding now, this is our 4th year, and it feels like the hobby as a whole is moving lightning fast. We saw it moving lightning fast, and we knew it's going to get even faster because of shed testing. It makes things so much, I don't want to say easier, but you can do a lot more with a smaller collection. Therefore, you can move a lot faster. Now, that means that if we already thought things were going fast, that means we're going to go light speed now. And I think that's across the board, whether it's going to be big breeders or moderate sized breeders, everyone's going to move even faster, even on the keeping side. So what do you do while you're on the sideline? Well, you educate yourself, you research, you follow the people who have these genes, see if, you know, they're producing things or learning new information to make you kind of not want to spend your hard-earned money to get behind that gene. Maybe, you know, it's one of those situations with, you know, scaleless head, you know, where the scaleless ball python, and you roll into that issue. Or like it's been said time and time again, the desert gene, you know, with the fertility in the females. If you're a little slow to get to certain genes, it may actually benefit you. You may actually protect yourself from getting financially burdened with, you know, an unproductive or unsuccessful gene in your gene pool that you're now saturating your entire collection or a portion of your collection to chase behind certain combinations. So again, getting that new gene is not always the best thing to do. Sometimes it's better to go the tried and true route where you know some of these genes. There's genes out there now that's still, 15, 20 years old, and they're still making new combinations. They're still, you know, seeing things that's, you know, becoming, you know, allelic and all of the sorts. There's so much that has not been worked with ball pythons, and we are still getting new genes, which makes kind of everything reshuffle and start all over. You have a lot of genes that were put on the shelf, whether it was redhead or, you know, whatever it may be, put on the shelf for years just to come back and hit the market or the industry, you know, like with a sledgehammer. Then also take into consideration that in today's industry, branding matters. Look, you're watching this video here on YouTube. Following your favorite YouTubers, they're going to have strong influence. We hope we have a positive influence on you guys. But at the same time, we want to be transparent and let you guys know that we're not always going to be right. And hopefully we can be right more than we're wrong. But if we are wrong, we want to bring it to you guys on camera and tell you, hey, we were wrong about X, Y, and Z, whatever it may be. But this is the true influence. A lot of you can influence the hobby, the market as well, with your phone, with your camera. Whip it out, start recording, post. Put your reels up, put your post up. It's very important to get yourself out there because that's your power in the community. That's your influence in the community. You know, we talk about it all the time. One bad run-in, one bad business move in such a niche hobby can literally destroy any up-and-coming breeder, any up-and-coming keeper, whether you're on the buyer side, whether you're on the seller side. You want to treat people the way you want to be treated. But ultimately, it doesn't matter when, you know, you get into a gene. You could be the last, quote unquote, last person to get to a gene and still be successful with it. A lot of the stuff we've gotten into, we weren't the first people to get to it, but we try very, very hard to do our due diligence, write down a game plan where, you know, we're thinking 3, 4 steps ahead, 5 steps ahead on what we want to try to produce. And maybe the first generation of what we're producing may be sort of kind of mainstream, but no one thinks alike. We're thinking so far ahead of that to try to get certain combinations, whether recessive or codom, at play to create something hopefully flawless or hopefully incredible. That's our goal. We want to breed for ourselves, priority number one. So as long as your reserve, your revenue is coming in and you can afford it without breaking the bank, I would say go for it. But when you go for it, make sure you have a plan in place and you're ready to execute. Anyway, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell if any of this kind of fell on you, where you feel this motivating, inspiring, and kind of ignites you to really, really keep pushing forward with some of your dream projects that you're working on. Would love to chat down below on different topics as far as how long it took you to get into a gene, whether it was prosperous for you, and prosperous means, you know, whether it was successful with your combinations you hit, or maybe even financially beneficial to your business or to you. But it's Will, Flawless is Out of Creations, and we out.